Geneva, orașul cochet și bogat în istorie, situat pe malul lacului Le Mans, este unul dintre centrele reformei protestante încă din secolul al XVI-lea, când Calvin a început să predice aici. Influențând viața culturală a Europei de-a lungul timpului, Geneva este astăzi un oraș bogat atât la propriu, cât și în ceea ce privește istoria, arta, educația și turismul. Aflat pe primele locuri în privința calității vieții locuitorilor săi, Geneva este sediul a peste 200 de organizații internaționale. Este al doilea centru al Organizației Națiunilor Unite după New York. Găzduiește sediul central al Organizației Mondiale a Sănătății și Comitetul Internațional al Crucii Roșii. Aici a avut loc la începutul lunii iulie cea de-a doua Conferință Globală de Sănătate și Stil de Viață, organizată de Biserica Adventistă de Ziua 7-a. Nu întâmplător, ci pentru că în acest oraș biserica a semnat parteneriate de colaborare cu Organizația Mondială a Sănătății și cu Organizația Panamericană a Sănătății. Cea de-a doua Conferință Globală de Sănătate și Stil de Viață a avut ca temă bolile cronice netransmisibile și a adunat cadre medicale din întreaga lume. Alături de aceștia au participat și conferențiat lideri ai Bisericii Adventiste de Ziua 7-a și personalități ale vieții medicale internaționale.
This second global conference on health and lifestyle is meant to pull together health professionals, pastors, church leaders, interested church members who have a great interest in helping to be part of God's last day proclamation of the three angels' messages of Revelation 14 and the fourth angel of Revelation 18 to call people out of confusion, out of Babylon, into a completely beautiful understanding of how to worship God in the right way, which includes living properly, both physically, mentally, socially, and of course spiritually.
There is a lot of suffering in this world. You know, people suffer from emotional problems, from spiritual problems, from physical problems. And all over the world, people have this in common, which is suffering.
What we are looking at here is non-communicable diseases, diseases like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and how we can reduce the incidence of these diseases. We're studying the fact that lifestyle, like diet, exercise, makes a major difference in the development and the risk factors toward these diseases.
Many of these diseases could be prevented. People wouldn't have to suffer from them. It's true that if Jesus doesn't come before, that we will all die, but you know, we can have a better life, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And this conference comes to show each other, to show others that there is a better way. There is a way of living that is better for us as individuals, is better for us as families, is better for us as communities.
Bolile cronice netransmisibile sunt studiate de comunitatea științifică medicală din întreaga lume. Concluzia este unanimă. Stilul de viață are un rol crucial în apariția și evoluția acestor afecțiuni.
First of all, the non-communicable diseases, we have prioritized them as cardiovascular disease, which includes heart attacks and strokes, cancers, diabetes, and chronic respiratory diseases. And the reality is that across the entire world, these rates of these diseases are continuing to climb very, very significantly. Now, what is causing this? This is essentially caused by our lifestyle.
What we know is that health is very complex, and it is caused and contributed to by many different factors. So, for example, a very common estimate used by many health researchers today is an estimate that came from a Surgeon General's report in the United States that was published in 1979. It was a report entitled Healthy People. And it said that if you looked at adults, that about 50% of the variations in health was driven by their behaviors, about 10% by medical care, about 20% by genetics, and another 20% by other social environmental factors. So it shows that health is then a complex summary of both genetics, the larger environment in which we live, the particular behaviors we practice, and our access and quality of medical care. So it's not any one factor, but it's how all of these factors work together. Importantly, I think, when many people think of medical care, they think first about genetics, and second about their health. They think about genetics and about medical care. Those are important, but factors outside of the doctor's office and outside of the hospital, like our larger social and physical environments and our health behaviors, have a big impact on our health.
What is happening is as time has progressed, as peoples, as populations, as communities, we are becoming more westernized in how we live. So we are more prone to eat fast foods, which are processed junk foods, which are very high in energy, but very low in nutrients. And they're very tasty, and they're easy to prepare, and they don't necessarily perish as quickly. So therefore they're very convenient and they're relatively cheap. We also tend to drink large amounts of sodas. Everything is supersized. So there's high availability of inexpensive food that's marketed to appeal to our senses. That's one of the very big changes that has taken place. The other very big change that has taken place in many of our societies is that we're far less active. So we spend long periods sitting at desks. We don't play outdoors anymore as children. We play video games, we exercise our fingers, and therefore the entire change that's taken place in all our communities is leading to this vast increase in the prevalence and incidence of chronic non-communicable diseases.
Factorii de risc principali în bolile civilizației sunt dieta necorespunzătoare, sedentarismul, consumul de tutun și de alcool.
The risk factors are quite well documented for them, and the common four that we speak to, as I said before, are physical inactivity, diet which is poor, lacking in things like fruits and vegetables, but in fact rich in processed foods and sugary drinks. Also, there's a lot of tobacco use globally. And in fact, in some populations, we're seeing higher rates of smoking among young people and women. That also predisposes us to cardiovascular disease and some of the cancers. In addition to all of this, there's also the harmful use of alcohol. And in fact, alcohol use in large amounts is linked to many adverse outcomes and accounts for a high degree of mortality among men relative to women. So it's really changes in our behaviors, changes in our lifestyle, which really are detrimental to our well-being.
A doua Conferință Globală de Sănătate și Stil de Viață a prezentat tema bolilor cronice netransmisibile diferit față de un congres medical obișnuit. Cercetarea științifică și preocuparea pentru creșterea spirituală merg împreună, astfel încât cadrele medicale, pastorii, educatorii au un singur scop: sănătatea completă a persoanei.
The reason to have this kind of meeting and to have so many people coming to it, and really we're amazed, we thank God. There are almost 1,200 people here, and originally they only planned on about 750. But God's Spirit is moving in a very powerful way because people recognize that in order to reach the public, in order to reach people and also to prepare our own selves for Christ's soon coming, that we need to live according to His moral law and His natural laws. And we can't do that on our own. It is only through the power of Jesus working in us, who justifies us and then sanctifies us so we become more and more like Jesus, that this can be accomplished. But this meeting is really not just to highlight scientific information and better health practices. It is to help people to understand we need a blended ministry, as the Spirit of prophecy tells us. Pastors, health professionals, church members working together to help people to fulfill the wonderful plan that God has to help people turn back to the true worship of God and living a pure and healthy life through the power of the Holy Spirit.
Here comes the foundation of why we do it. Our health message was given not so that we can be long-lived sinners, but so that we can be fit for service. You know, that was a wonderful message given to the church, and it wasn't only so that we could enjoy more quality of life, which is very important, and we do that if we follow the instructions that we have and use the information that's been given us. We live longer, we live more quality life, we live in a more happy emotional state, but really the reason that this has been given to us is so that we can be of service.
We believe that this world is a created world. We believe in God the Creator, and that our bodies are in fact a marvelous representation of that creative power. And we believe that we have a responsibility to look after our bodies, and in fact that this has a biblical foundation. And we're not, of course, the only religion that believes that in our physical and emotional and mental health that we should live our life to the glory of God.
We have been created by God, and God created us in a way that we can communicate with Him. It's through our minds and through prayer, through praise. When we sing, we can talk to Him. But if our mind is sick, it's not functionally well, this connection becomes broken, you know. We cannot think on God, it's become blurry. So the intention of a health conference is to have a clean avenue between us and our Creator.
Participanții au primit informații noi din diferite domenii, dar mai ales au stabilit noi relații cu profesioniștii din întreaga lume.
I think this conference is very much for the Adventist Church, really, because we have and always have had historically a tremendous interest in health and helping the whole community, but of course we've now become a very international church. So to do that effectively in many different countries requires many different ways of looking at the problem and responding to the problem. And here we all are to communicate to each other and to help ourselves to understand.
Here comes the second component of what is important. It's a conference, as you will see, that has many breakout sessions, 23. Nurses, dentists, mental health, addictions, pastors, chaplains, educationists. So there's something for everyone, because health is a commodity. It's something which belongs to everyone. Women's health, children's health. In education, we need the component of health to be emphasized.
It is so key for medical professionals to be able to listen to experts that talk about holistic approaches to health. You know, if you go to schools and you learn, or even in practice today, we hear a lot about the convention treatments, and particularly now we're talking about non-communicable diseases, and there's a lot out there about that, but it's not a lot there that talks about lifestyle, that talks about things that you do, choices that people may have that you can encourage them to do as a health professional that can actually help. And so in this conference, we're having a whole lot of different experts that can talk about everything from mental health to physical health to diet or nutrition or HIV or specific types of diseases, but that actually take into consideration the whole person, you know, the mind, the body, the spirit. So they can come and listen to the most recent research on those issues, but also to network with other people from other countries, other cultures, learn how the treatments, or even how to do health education or health promotion in different settings. So it can be culturally sensitive and in a way that's practical for people out in churches or in schools or even in the community. So I think it's so key, this factor of both learning the knowledge and also networking with others that are doing the same.
I mean, I think the main value of conferences of any kind, certainly getting together like this one, is not so much in the knowledge you take away, but it's in the social interactions, the reinforcement that comes when you can compare what other people do and you can get motivated to do more yourself. So as I listen to these, most of what is being said, I think most of us here already know, but somehow hearing it said again and talking with people do it is motivational.
Persoane publice și experți ai organizațiilor internaționale și-au exprimat aprecierea pentru viziunea și inițiativele adventiștilor din domeniul medical.
I became interested in Adventist lifestyle and health now as many as 5 years ago, when I started to look at who Seventh-day Adventists were, particularly in America. And I was looking to try and make a movie about that, and I became really fascinated with how good Adventists were at integrating their faith and the notions and principles of health. And that not only this was a new thing for them, but this has been going on now since the beginning of the church. So for me, how well Adventists had thought about their own health as it's integrated into their faith, that I think was a fascinating story for me, and that's why I made the first film, The Adventists. And then after having made the first film, it sort of led to the second film, The International Story. So one just led nicely, seamlessly from one to the other. But it really began because I saw an opportunity to tell a story about the integration of faith, religion, and healthcare and medicine. And it wove together perfectly, I thought.
I was quite struck by much what I learned at the meeting this morning in terms of the role of the Adventist Church. As I said, when one looks at the academic literature, there are dozens of peer-reviewed articles about research work in cohorts of Adventists. And there's a realization that the lifestyle of Adventists actually is beneficial. So, for example, the type of diet, vegetarian diets, for example, is linked to decreased mortality, lower rates of cardiovascular disease. Adventists live longer than non-Adventists, 7 to 9 years longer. So clearly a lot of things take place. And it's not just simply, I don't think, diet. I think there's also a very strong church community. So there are also the spiritual elements. There's the community support. There's the brotherhood and the fellowship. So I think all of these factors tend to interact with each other to lead to a positive outcome.
I think that what's clear, and we're hearing a lot of that at this conference, is that the evidence is starting to prove again and again that Adventists are living longer, living healthier lives than the rest of the world is. And that's something that the rest of the world is beginning to take notice of. I mean, I took notice of it. I put it into a film, and a lot of people saw the film, thank God. But I think it's studies that are coming out. People are studying how Seventh-day Adventists live and how their health practices are. So I think the end result of all of this is getting the word out about living a life that's faithful and living a life that's smart in terms of what you do with your body. It really has a great success.
Aspectele științifice au fost înglobate în principiile promovate de Biserica Adventistă de Ziua, aceștia, principii care au fost, la rândul lor, validate de cercetările din ultimii ani. Sănătatea fizică este strâns legată de echilibrul psihic, de calitatea relațiilor sociale și de spiritualitate.
Biserica Adventistă a început ca o mișcare care ține cont nu doar de spiritualitatea omului, ci și de sănătatea omului. Biblia ne învață că nu putem să îl înțelegem și îl percepem pe Dumnezeu în totalitate, fără ca în această experiență cu Dumnezeu, fizicul nostru, trupul nostru să aibă un rol. Nu putem vorbi de o spiritualitate total ruptă de experiența noastră în trup. Noi credem că ființa umană este un întreg compus din mai multe aspecte de care, bineînțeles, ține și partea fizică, deși nu credem în faptul că omul este compus din duh și trup sau spirit și trup, ci este un întreg indivizibil cu mai multe aspecte, cum ar fi fizicul, spiritualul, emoționalul, socialul și așa mai departe.
Faith in God helps us to cope with the disease because it gives us confidence that in spite of that sickness, in spite of that disease, God is there with us. That we have that sense of the divine presence. We have that sense that we're not alone. And I think that makes all the difference. It is not simply that I pray and God will deliver me from the sickness, but it's rather that in that sickness, the Apostle Paul had a problem with his eyesight, and the Bible says that 3 times he prayed that God will remove that thing from him, and God said, "My grace is sufficient for you." So as a Christian going through trauma and difficulty and hardship and sickness, we have that sense that God will never allow us to go through something that He will not strengthen us to go through, and that His grace is sufficient.
Scientifically, there is a huge amount of literature and scientific evidence which shows that without any question that there is a marvelous interplay of mental health, physical health, emotional health, and social well-being. This has been shown, for example, people are studying spirituality and health. People who go to church on a weekly basis, studies have been shown, large studies, that there's less high blood pressure, less hypertension, less heart disease, less depression, fewer suicides. That shows a significant impact on the individual's life. People who are physically healthy, people who regularly exercise, are shown to have less depression, they have better feeling of well-being. Not only are they physically stronger, but they're able to do things better. So the physical health impacts the mental health. And of course, spiritual health is very, very important as far as understanding to whom we belong, why we do this. Is it just to live the extra 7 or 9 years, or is it to be of glory to God? And that ties it up into a beautiful package of mental, physical, and spiritual.
There's one other aspect that I think is important as well, and that's forgiveness. People that have the inability to forgive tend to be resentful. Resentful people tend to trigger negative chemical endorphins that break down the entire immune system. When you come to Christ and you find that He has forgiven you so much, it enables you to forgive other people, and that's health-giving.
Despite the fact that we may eat all the right foods or do all the right exercise or walk or, sleep right or drink water, have sunshine, exercise, you will still get sick. Why? We live in a sinful world. What do? We trust God. That's what Christians do. We trust God. Why? He has promised to be with us always.
Mai bogați în informație și motivați de exemplele prezentate la cea de-a doua Conferință Globală de Sănătate și Stil de Viață, participanții vor lupta pentru schimbare în casa, în cabinetul și în comunitatea unde trăiesc.
This is part of comprehensive health ministry. It's part of Christ's approach to people. He not only healed them, He told them, your sins are forgiven. He helped them to find new life. Seventh-day Adventists are commissioned to follow this example, and we do that through the wonderful plan of Christian education, helping people to understand a better life and be able to contribute to others in a more powerful way. We do this through our health work, of course, to help people to be healthier, but not just to be healthy sinners who ultimately will never see eternal life, but to understand who the source of all this health really is, and that is God Himself. We do this through humanitarian efforts, whether it is community services, helping people to learn how to read, helping people with their marital and family situations, helping young people to learn how best to avoid the risks of life when they're just young people, helping people who are physically in need, helping people who are financially in need. It's much better to try and train somebody to work than simply to give them food. So we do this through many different activities, including community services and ADRA, Adventist Development and Relief Agency, helping people to find meaning in life and equipping them in a broader sense to understand what it is they're supposed to be doing in life for other people.
There are many practical ways people can get down to working with the information that they've acquired here. But it's going to take what we call intentionality. They're going to have to be intentional about it. Draw up some goals. You cannot go back from a conference like this and say, we're going to change everything. We change one behavior at a time. You implement one initiative at a time. one program at a time. And prayerfully, and my prayer and my hope is that people will be inspired and say, you know what, we all can exercise every day. We talk about it, we hear about it, let's do it. We've known about the health benefits of a vegetarian diet. Let's do it. We've learned that drinking water is healthy. Let's do it. We saw a wonderful presentation on the dangers of free radicals related to the very heavily fat, dense, refined foods today. Well, let's make decisions. So it's to make the choices, the information, tons of it. But what it's going to take to implement on the ground, I believe, is number one, to accept it personally, so it makes a difference to me, and then to go to the areas where I work, whether it's in my home, my church, my community, my workplace.
The best way to communicate is the personal testimony. If I come to you and say, hey, this is good, you're going to trust on what I'm saying because I am saying something good to you. You can learn things or receive communications through newspaper, through radio, television, internet, social network, but when it comes to a personal level, it's much, much stronger. So the idea here is to empower leaders that will communicate to other people, that will communicate to other people, and then create a chain of information about how they need to proceed regarding the health.
I think that for me, the most important thing is to put a human face on the stories that we're telling. So yes, we talk about in one of the films what's happening with healthcare around the world, but you can't just give people statistics. If you actually show people some of the lives, the faces of the people who've been helped, whose lives have been improved as a result of the healthcare, then that person becomes real to the viewer, and that emotion connects, that you actually connect with that person's change of their lives. To me, the stories are the most important thing. The facts will be part of what you're doing in the overall picture, but the truth of the matter is the stories. And people want to hear stories about other people's lives. And if you can capture that and tell that well enough, then you can convey the information later. The most important thing is to sort of tell the story of those people.
By the perspective of a communication, because I'm not a doctor, I'm a communicator, what is important is a platform where they can find the material that they receive. Today is not difficult to spread in a very few time the material that we are receiving, because with internet we can receive material and very fast to share this material. So first, we have to be aware that what we are receiving or what we are giving has to be affordable for every people, for everyone that is here. So what they have to do, the speakers, has to provide the material in a very easy way to allow the people to receive what they are giving now. And the people that receive, of course, they have to be aware that it's not only for their laptop, has to be spread with the local colleagues or maybe the local church, if they are working also in the church, in order to give, to say, visibility and promotion on topics like health, that is not only for the doctor, it's for everybody.
You know, communicating the message of health now is becoming more and more challenging, because we have people of every age, different cultural backgrounds, and now with the explosion of technology, we see a huge gap of how people learn. And so just lectures or presentations is not enough to really communicate a lot of the richness of health, of the information on health, particularly when you look at people that are very high tech and that are a lot, young people, for instance, that are in social media. They're bombarded with information in their cell phones and, you know, in ways that in their computer. So we need to be able to provide not just materials for people to communicate and educate interpersonally in a class setting or in a church setting when you're doing health education, but also have programs in the TV, for instance, that can communicate via satellite or via TV. Radio is important, and social media is now very, very important, particularly if you want to reach the young people. Things like short videos, things like Facebook, Twitter, communicating in the way that people receive, particularly the young people. For instance, we've seen 1-minute video spots on health, like Facts with Hope, which is one way to communicate a message very quickly in a way that gets people attention. So more and more, I think we need to see more ways to explore the media to communicate a message that's easy, that's simple, clear, but that can capture the attention of our young people particularly, So there are many ways. I don't think one way is the right way. It depends on the culture, it depends on the age, and we need to be consider all those factors in order to be successful and effective in communicating.
How many of you absolutely love exercise? Love. Great. How many of you are okay with exercise? It's all right, okay. How many of you really, truth told, don't like exercise? I see a few people with their hands up. Listen, Delbert and I have come to really show the waterfront of exercise. Delbert really loves to exercise. He is passionate about it. It gets his motor running to think about exercise. Now, I don't want to put myself on the other end of that spectrum, but I do want to tell you that for me, exercise is a discipline. All right? I got it out there in the open. Exercise is a discipline for me. I do it because I know of the many health benefits of exercise. So, whether you're passionate, see Delbert, he's getting all geared up there, or whether you're like me, you do it every day, 5 days a week because of discipline, because you know that it will really help you to live longer and be healthy, we've covered the waterfront. All right. Good. So Delbert is going to demonstrate. While Delbert demonstrates, I am going to talk a little bit about the evidence-based benefits of regular exercise and talk a little bit about exercise principles that if you put into practice can really help you to be successful in exercise. Because exercise is one of those concepts that we want to think of as a lifestyle habit. It's not just something you do on the weekend, not just something you do when you're feeling like it. It's a healthy habit, and that's what we want to emphasize. So you'll see on the screen some of the evidence-based benefits of regular exercise. And we do want to emphasize that evidence, literature, research studies that are out there that are published do indicate that exercise, regular exercise, can help in so many different ways. So, most people, now Delbert indicated I'm a physical therapist. I talk to people about healthy lifestyle habits all the time. Exercise is one of the things that I love to talk about. There he goes. Look at him. He's going. Okay, but people always ask me, what are principles to exercise? So while you're watching Delbert do the practical part, I'd like you to think about 5 ways that you can make sure that you can have a successful exercise program. Mayo Clinic has come up with a good acrostic to think about the components that can help you with a healthy exercise program. And they have divided this up into the acrostic ADOPT. We'll go through these quickly, step by step. Assess. We have found out, if you recall, if you think about exercise over the years, you'll recall that we always said, see your doctor before you start an exercise program. Guess what? We found that a lot of people never started an exercise program because they didn't go to see their doctor to get the permission first. So we've kind of relaxed that a little bit. Now we say, see your healthcare professional. You can see a physician, you can see a physical therapist, you can see a sports medicine trainer. Any of those people can help you to start to set up, to assess your body. It's a good thing to do to establish a baseline. Take your pulse, figure out what your pulse rate is after you walk a mile, figure out what your pulse rate is after you've done push-ups. all of these are ways to assess yourself and start a baseline so that you can tell your progress. It's also good to get some biostatistics, to take your waist circumference, to know what your BMI is. All right, so A is for assess. D is decide. Decide what exercise program is the best for you, what you really like to do. So you have to consider your fitness goals, then construct a balanced exercise routine. Now, most important thing to remember is that you want to go at your own pace. Don't be forced to exercise more, longer, higher intensity than you really can. It's really important that you build activity into your daily routine. A number of us I've seen are not taking the tram, not taking the taxi. We're walking over, and that really is a good way to build activity into your daily routine. Then it's a good idea to write down what your exercise program is. All of these are parts of deciding what program is going to work. And then you want to organize your exercise program, and you really want to base it on principles that are called SMART principles. These are principles that you can measure, they're specific, they're measurable. You're thinking about how much exercise you're going to do every day, where you're going to do it, what kind of form it's going to look like. You want your goals to be reasonable and you want them to be attainable. If you're not exercising at all right now, you don't want to start out saying, I'm going to exercise an hour or an hour and a half a day. You want it to be something realistic. It's important, too, that you start slow and that you keep steady, but probably the most important principle is that you don't stop. Even if you fall off the exercise wagon a little bit, maybe a day goes by that you don't exercise, or a week, or even a month, it's important that you get back up, get on the exercise wagon. Then it's important that you not just assess and decide and organize, but then you have to actually achieve the exercise program. You've got to perform the exercises, and that's what the P in adopt stands for. It's interesting that if you want to be successful with your exercise program, be creative. There's a whole variety of exercises that you can do. You can run, you can walk, you can ski, you can swim, you can do weightlifting, weight training. There's so many different things you can do. So you've got to be creative, you have to listen to your body, and you have to really be flexible with yourself and with the demands and expectations that you put on yourself if you're going to have a consistently successful exercise program. Then, of course, the last letter in the acrostic is T, and this stands for test. It is a good idea that when you are involved in an exercise program, that you do have ways to periodically assess and evaluate how you're doing. You should notice changes in your heart rate. You should notice changes in your BMI. You should notice changes in your waist circumference. So you really do want to be able to have those initial baseline measurements and then have a time when you can test and you can reassess how you're doing. I think probably the most important thing is not to overthink exercise. We've recognized over the years that we may have made exercise too difficult a concept for most people. The important thing is that you build activity in your life, you're consistent with it, you increase the intensity appropriately, and that you do it consistently. So when we think about health benefits, when we think about ways to maintain all the benefits that come from health, we think from exercise, we think about a consistent lifestyle approach to this very important piece of a healthy life.
Cu toții știm ce înseamnă un stil de viață sănătos. De multe ori însă, aplicarea în practică a acestor principii este foarte dificilă. Ce este mai important în producerea schimbării? Motivația interioară sau măsurile luate de autorități?
The whole issue of lifestyle and chronic diseases, we all know what causes it, we all know what to do. But the challenge is that we each have to take the steps and do what has to be done to make that difference. And therein lies the challenge.
In the last few decades, researchers have become very interested in what they call the social determinants of health. And what they mean by that is that where you live, learn, work, play, and worship, and the opportunities to be healthy in the places where you spend a lot of your time has a large influence on health.
What we've done on the Loma Linda campus, and we've been working very hard on this, we've changed all the menus in our cafeteria. You can't get fatty foods in our cafeteria. We've taken away the deep fryers in the kitchen so they can't make deep fried things anymore. So there's really very good menus in the cafeteria. We have hiking trails on campus. We have, of course, a no smoking campus. So you try to create the environment to do that, but you still need the motivators. You still need the, well, this is going to cost me more money if I don't live this way. And that helps to push people to follow the right things.
Other research indicates that the availability of healthy food in the neighborhood and community where you live affects how healthy your diet is. And people who live in neighborhoods where there aren't a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, then they are more likely to be overweight. Similarly, your neighborhood and the way your environment, your community is structured affects how much you're likely to walk and to get regular exercise. So at the end of the day, there are many health behaviors and health practices and what we do that has a big impact on our health. But we are all affected by the larger environment and the larger culture in which we are. And so there's a lot that we can do for health, but we also sometimes have to fight against the pressures that come from our larger environment.
The problem is we all know better than we do. I mean, we know what to eat, we know to exercise, we know what to do, but we are not motivated to do it. So looking for the motivators is often the key. We have about 15,000 employees at Loma Linda. We have 5,000 dependents and about 5,000 students. And so we have just put them all on an incentive system where their insurance, their health insurance, their copay, the amount they pay, goes down if they follow good health habits. So we do an assessment of all of them, check their blood pressure, their sugar, and so on. And they have to go through that if they're going to maintain a lower premium. So you start putting in a financial incentive to try to encourage people to do what they should do. Then we also provide a number of programs to help them, but programs by themselves don't do it unless a person is motivated. I mean, the other thing that of course happens, particularly among young people, is peer pressure. I mean, people want to look or do things in certain ways, so they do it because somebody else does it. But somehow you've got to find that. One of the numbers that's always scary, it's true for us at Loma Linda, roughly 5% of our employees generate 50% of our healthcare costs. I mean, we're all self-insured, so we track this very carefully. So 5% of people are generating half of our budget every year for healthcare costs. So why is that? Well, that 5% are the people that have the most problems. They're usually overweight, they have various health behaviors you don't want to have them have. So you have various things that they're working on. So how do you help them? Well, these are the most difficult people to motivate because usually they don't exercise, they've gained weight, all these things happen, their eating patterns are poor. So those are the ones we're concentrating on now, is how do we help them? The rest of the population, already does things that are good, and you want to encourage them, but it's really that small portion that generates most of the costs. I don't think laws are more important because you can't mandate good behavior. But what you can do is create an environment of good behavior where it's expected. So then other people start following this a bit more, and then the social pressure comes in and people follow. Now, where it's getting tough in the US now, people are starting to try to mandate the amount of fat in foods or the amount of sugar in foods. They're trying to decrease the size of the soft drinks you can get. So you can't get great big drinks, you only get smaller drinks. Things like this. Will they help? Maybe. I think it's probably more important to try to motivate people internally to say, this is what I need to do to follow good health habits.
We develop an appreciation for habits which are not necessarily in our better interests. A lot of people try to quit smoking. They find it extremely challenging to achieve that. It's very, very difficult. And quite often, the way forward is not to begin in the first place. And in fact, we have seen evidence that some of the interventions, for example, taxation of tobacco, what that does, it increases the price. So young people, adolescents, never begin to smoke because they just can't afford the habit. And once they never begin to smoke, they never become smokers. Regulation, for example, of allowing younger people access to alcohol or marketing alcohol to younger people. When one legislates against that, it reduces numbers of people who actually start to drink, which again is a good thing. So the whole issue too in terms of what you eat, people acquire taste. And I often use the analogy that if you see a fat child, you quite often will see a fat mother. It's the choices we make, it's the way that the child is fed, it's the way the child learns to appreciate certain types of food and the quantities of food that he's fed. And again, physical activity is another challenge. That again is largely driven by the fact that we have easy access to technology and video games and so forth. We also think that playing outside is no longer safe. When people go missing, or there are these horror stories about what happened to people who disappeared after playing outside, you're afraid to send your children outside. So safe spaces becomes more of a challenge in our societies. And therefore we think that we need to keep our children indoors so they can be safe and secure. But ultimately, the way that our societies and our cultures have changed tends to drive us to a pattern of not being physically active, not eating well, using tobacco, using alcohol. And these are all the things that drive us on the road to non-communicable diseases. And we know what caused it. And the big challenge for all of us is to develop sustainable ways of reversing these trends.
La cea de-a doua Conferință Globală de Sănătate și Stil de Viață au fost prezenți pastori și câteva cadre medicale din România și Republica Moldova.
Bine, cred că dintre toate bisericile creștine, Biserica Adventistă de Ziua 7 are o teologie a sănătății probabil că cea mai bine pusă la punct, teologia sănătății, pentru că încă de la înființarea bisericii s-a crezut că între sănătate și spiritualitate este o legătură foarte strânsă și invers, între spiritualitate și sănătate. Și s-a dat atenție și se dă atenție tuturor factorilor de stil. În mod tradițional, poate unii adventiști pun accentul pe hrană, dar exercițiul fizic este extrem de important, odihna, știm că odihna lipsa de odihnă este legată de o creștere a riscului pentru obezitate, pentru diabet și pentru cine știe ce altceva care urmează să descoperim. Deci sunt mult mai mulți factori decât nutriția, și apoi factorii care țin de zona emoțională, spirituală și toate aceste lucruri Biserica Adventistă le-a avut de foarte mult timp, de peste 100 și ceva de ani, și asta cred că trebuie să ne dea încredere și să fim modele pentru alți medici din comunitate, pentru alte biserici care să încorporeze mai mult din conceptele acestea de sănătate și din legătura aceasta strânsă între spiritualitate și sănătate.
În concepția mea, viața spirituală, psihică, fizică este indispensabilă de latura sănătății fizice. După cum am și auzit, ceea ce prezenta atât Mark Finley în adresările de dimineață, cât și ceea ce prezentau specialiștii în diferite domenii. Mai ales astăzi am ascultat o adresare ce a prezentat în mod direct relația dintre sănătatea fizică, spirituală și cea psihică.
Legătura dintre spiritualitate și întreaga noastră sănătate este limpede, deoarece Cel care ne-a creat este Dumnezeu și ne-a creat într-un întreg și El ne-a dat și această legătură cu El, această posibilitate de a ne gândi tot timpul la El, ca această gândire către El, această conectare cu El să poată să armonizeze întreaga noastră ființă, fizică, psihică.
De fapt, originea acestei combinații și se găsește în Biblie, unde vorbește despre un duh măhnit, ori despre un trup care nu este într-o stare foarte bine, ori cuvintele Apostolului Pavel care spune fie că mâncați, fie că beți, fie că orice altceva faceți, fie că toate acestea să fie pentru slava lui Dumnezeu.
Un aspect interesant este legat despre o abordare totală a acestor boli cronice, nu doar ca boală, ci poate și ca simptom al unor situații din zona socioeconomică legată de sărăcie, legată de accesul chiar și la școală, la informație, la o alimentație bună, de asemenea mediul familial. Deci ni s-a atras atenția că sănătatea și aceste boli cronice nu sunt rezultatul doar a unui stil de viață greșit, ci este rezultanta la mai mulți factori care țin de statusul socioeconomic.
Participanții s-au întors acasă cu o puternică motivație de a continua activitatea având această viziune holistică asupra persoanei și de a folosi orice mijloc pentru a promova stilul de viață sănătos.
Aici la Geneva s-a pus mult accent pe sănătatea mentală, în mod special pe sănătatea emoțională, ceea ce s-a cam neglijat în ultimii ani, atât în biserici, cât și pentru populația largă. Așa că mi-aș dori ca în România să punem accent mai mult pe acest aspect, să avem cluburi de sănătate care să trateze problema, atât din punct de vedere preventiv, cât și centre sau locuri în care persoanele care au deja probleme, cum ar fi cu depresia, o boală foarte răspândită astăzi, să poată găsi tratament, consiliere pe această problemă făcută de către profesioniști. România are nevoie și noi, ca și celelalte țări, stăm rău, aș spune, la acest capitol. Statisticile arată că 3 din 4 sau din 5 pacienți care se prezintă la medicul de familie cu o altă problemă suferă și de depresie, ceea ce face această intervenție una foarte necesară. Mi-ar plăcea să fie centre chiar în biserici, locuri în care poate nu te-ai aștepta, în care cei care au nevoie să găsească răspuns la întrebările lor.
Există o prăpastie între ceea ce știm și ceea ce facem și accentul a căzut pe modul în care noi medicii și nu numai medicii și alte cadre medicale pot să se implice în viața comunității și să-i ajute pe oameni în recuperarea din aceste boli. La Herghelia de 17 ani asta facem. Ceea ce n-am putut să facem atât de mult cât ne-ar fi plăcut a fost implicarea activă în viața comunității. Sigur că am produs împreună cu editura Viață și Sănătate revista Viață plus Sănătate, dar cred că există loc pentru mai multă implicare a noastră în binele comunității din jurul nostru, din Târgu Mureș, și cumva să urmărim în mod intenționat ca instituția să se implice mai mult în afară.
În practica mea medicală, sigur, voi duce toate mesajele care sunt foarte limpede expuse aici și chiar cu o imagistică formidabil de sugestivă, uneori chiar având o conotație umoristică și asta se poate înregistra, prin faptul că voi traduce, voi aplica, voi face mici întâlniri, de exemplu în gărzi cu mămicile și să le pun un CD pe care l-am primit aici și într-adevăr să întregim ceea ce noi am început de mult în centru prin Institutul Sola Scriptura, de a educa mamele să se hrănească, să se gândească mai adesea la Dumnezeu ca să poată să îndepărteze reacțiile și emoțiile negative din existența lor nefericită în contextul bolii pentru care se internează. Noi,
în Republica Moldova, plănuim să implementăm o serie de lucruri învățate aici, mai ales că împreună cu noi este și directorul Departamentului de Sanatate și noi, ca cei ce deja reprezentăm administrația bisericii, Cred că tot ceea ce am auzit până în prezent, ceea ce se va întâmpla de acum înainte, încă următoarele 2 zile, vom transmite atât pastorilor cât și conducătorilor Departamentului de Sănătate la nivel de comunități locale și mai ales că trăim în anul evangelizării orașelor mari, cred că vom implementa în Chișinău într-o măsură mare ceea ce am auzit și am asimilat la seminarele ascultate.
Conferința de aici a prezentat un model în care nu stai doar înăuntru zidurilor tale, ci ieși afară și participi la viața comunitară și dai ceva care este extrem de prețios pentru comunitate și anume sănătatea, mai ales când știi cum se poate păstra, ce trebuie să faci ca să o păstrezi.
We as members and as disciples of Jesus must remember that we must follow even personally all of these wonderful practices so that we too will then be a wonderful explanation. And as Paul says, he says, you are walking letters. You are a testimony to people about who God is. And so that's what Seventh-day Adventists need to be in these very last days of Earth's history, because I believe that Jesus is coming very soon, and he is preparing a people not only to be ready to meet him themselves, but he's preparing them to proclaim this message in every aspect. Health, because health is the right arm to the gospel. It's not the gospel. The gospel is being saved by Jesus Christ, his justifying, sanctifying power, what he's doing for us in the most holy place, in the heavenly sanctuary right now, and his soon return, what he did for us on the cross. All of these things, that's the gospel, saved by God's grace. But the health message is the right arm to help open the door and to help us to fully understand who we are as God's children. So it's just so exciting to be part of that great proclamation of the 3 angels' messages and of God's great message to help us to become whole through his power.